Well, here we are. I think it's the beginning of the recording. I have just got to check. Let me just check, Chael Sonnen, that this is recording because I can't see. Yes, it is. I am Gareth A Davies. I'm just outside London. It's Thursday, the last Thursday in March. The world is a singular, peculiar place right now. We are living in strange times. Bellator MMA asked me to host a Zoom conference with the one and only, one of my favorite people in the world, one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. He's going to talk in a minute. The one and only, the bad guy Inc., as you can see. Applause for Chael P. Sonnen. Chael, how are you?
I am bored. I've never been more bored in my whole life. I'm thrilled to talk to you, though.
What? Tell me why you're bored, first of all.
There's very little to do, and there's even less people to do it with, and you can only watch so many things on TV. The good news is I happen to like movies, and so I've been watching a lot of them.
Have you got a favorite movie you've watched in the last few days?
My favorite I've watched in the last few days is called Spencer Confidential with Mark Wahlberg. And one thing about Wahlberg, he is arguably the most reliable guy in Hollywood. It's either him or Denzel. And I'm not even saying he's the best, Daniel Day-Lewis type thespian. I'm just saying, as far as a guy who picks a script, you give him $10, he gives you 2 hours of entertainment. Mark Wahlberg is a go-to for me.
No, he's amazing. I've watched 1917 just recently. Which by Sam Mendes, it's one shot. It's the First World War. It's an extraordinary movie. We're talking, these are times of heroism, okay? We'll come on to that in a minute, but you could see, if you watch it, and I don't think you have yet, have you?
I've seen it.
Well, did you not want to be there? Did it not make you want to be a part of that? Would you not have been drawn to that if you were that age group?
Yeah, I think so, but it also, as much as the point you're making, it also just makes you have a different appreciation. I mean, what people were willing to go through, what people were forced to go through, what they did go through. I can tell you, I'm here in America, but I think you can probably relate. We don't have a whole lot of problems. As Americans, we sure love to complain, but if you really go study World War II in that time frame, you realize we don't have a whole lot of problems.
We've got a whole lot of problems now, though. You're a bright man. You and I have some incredibly deep conversations over time. I'm 30 miles north of London in a small village of 70 houses. About 2 hours ago, everybody went out onto their doorsteps and were whooping and hollering and clapping from their homes in celebration of 500,000 people who have volunteered for our National Health Service to work in the next weeks and months against the COVID-19 pandemic virus. This virus is an invisible killer. We have been told to isolate as a nation. We have been told only essential services to go to work, for everybody to work from home. It's a very, very weird time. I've just had a second heart procedure a week ago. I'm well, but you're being told you're at risk, not to mix with people, be very careful where you go, how you shop. I've got about 2 or 3 weeks food supply, but here's the thing, Chael. In Wuhan, where the coronavirus started, and then there are 11 million people in Wuhan, yeah? It's a major size Chinese city. It's 11 or 12 weeks of shutdown before they were able to control the spread of the virus. We've been shut down here since Monday, since Boris Johnson said, please stay at home, from 8:30 p.m. on Monday night. In America, and you're in Oregon, presumably you're at home, yeah? Yep. There are only a few states shut down. What's your take on whether we should all shut down now? Because for me, I think it's the right plan. The slower the virus spreads, the better for humanity and the less people will die.
Yeah, I tend to err on the side of caution as well. I mean, only time is going to tell. For all, we do not know that this is the best thing to do, but we don't know a whole lot about this virus. And to your point, you know, they can call it the COVID-19. It's a cowardly virus. If you want to fight, show yourself like a man. If you're floating around the air and you're attacking women and children, you're a coward, and that's what this virus is. And I love everything that you said. I've read the textbooks too, and this whole thing came from Wuhan, China. Nobody can prove that, Gareth. This is the story and the way the story's told. If we were to take them at their word, they have contained it. We haven't got the foggiest idea. And people don't want to say that. I mean, there was people that were on the news less than 2 weeks ago saying it'll go away with warmer weather. It's in Hawaii right now. The weather doesn't get a whole lot warmer than that. It's surfaced in California. It's all over Florida right now where the weather is warm. You don't have to be a doctor. You just have to have a little bit of logic. And all these people that want to come out and talk want to hide behind their MD. Okay, great, Doc. Let me ask you a question. I don't care that you've been in infectious disease for 30 years. Don't give a damn less. When's the first time you heard the word COVID-19? 25 days ago, Chael. Great. Then you and I have the exact same experience. So we got to go out and be smart. And if one person could make it to news and say, wash your hands and don't touch your face, and apparently that becomes a new thing. I got nothing against this advice because I have nothing better. But I will offer for you, in large point, this is just noise. And how much do you want to run and hide? I don't, but I'm not going to turn on somebody who does, and I don't want to influence them. I don't live my life that way. There's a famous story about a woman runs up to a group of three and says, the whole world's going to come to end. What do you do? And one guy says, well, I shall get myself a bottle of whiskey and 3 whores. And the other guy says, well, I shall go to the mission and pray. And the third guy says, I shall stay and finish the game. And Gareth, I will finish the game.
Well, I agree with your sentiments. The thing is this, you have to go on your gut instincts as well. And my gut instincts, and you've got children, I've got children and a grandchild. My gut instincts are to talk to my family every day at the moment, not move too much, hunker down and observe it. Observe things like hospitals full of people saying that they can't breathe, news reports. I don't want to go too deeply into the conspiracy theories today because you and I will be here forever on all of that. But it's worth monitoring it. We have access while the internet's still alive, while the internet is in existence, while there's Wi-Fi, to be able to see from the position we're in. You were in Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, weren't you?
Yep.
We were both there 2 weeks ago. From the Wednesday onwards of fight week, you could see that the dynamics of this thing were changing. There was an uncertainty in the air. Well, you know, because we were there till Friday when we were going to go and do the event without an audience. I was kind of excited and interested to do that, to be honest, to see how it was. And I've covered events in Japan. I'm sure you've been there where they're very quiet and you can hear mobile phones, cell phones going off during an event. You can hear the corners shouting. It would have been a novel experience, but the right decision was taken on that Friday afternoon, 5 hours before the event, 4 hours before the event, to call it off. It's not worth taking the risk. From then we had on the afternoon President Trump's address that day saying, we're stopping flights on Tuesday from Europe. All these things are signals. And in many ways, you know, Trump was moving his diplomats. The Foreign Service was moving its diplomats out of China as early as kind of the 10th of January, 10th, 14th of January. So there was clearly something up. The danger is that if people don't listen, Chael, they put themselves at risk and they spread it. I know we can't control people. Freedom is a weird thing. The world has shifted slightly. You know, maybe we're getting a karmic kick in the arse at the moment. I don't know. From the planet, you've seen the fish returning to the Venice canals, the ozone in certain places being better because of the lesser flights that are going on around the world right now. There are changes as a result of what this virus is forcing the human race to do. I think we've all got our small individual worlds. We've all got our self-purpose and our self-motivation and our selfish aims. But I do think, look, you and I are grown men. If someone robs my neighbor across the road, I'm sitting in from my front window and watching it happen. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to go over there. I'm not going to sit in my little cocoon and not do anything about it. If there's a child injured in the road, I'm not going to not go out there because I'm worried about getting COVID-19 virus, because I'm not worried about getting it. Do you know what I mean? But I want to be a grown man and be responsible in this situation. And, you know, I don't want to be one of the number who are on that death toll, because there is going to be a death toll. Now, there's always a death toll from pandemics. There's always a death toll from viruses the whole time. 40% of the world, by the way, doesn't have water and soap. They're the ones that are really going to pay when it gets to where they are. They're the ones that are really going to pay. For us, it's still, in a sense, a first world problem. We have the means, like you do and I do right now, via Zoom, via the internet, to be able to talk to each other. We could talk. I could give you secrets. You could give me secrets. We have the capacity to know exactly what's going on. The third world, the developing worlds don't have that. That's where there's the real problems. And that's why I don't want this pandemic to spread. And that's why I think there's a responsibility to be cocooned at the moment.
Well, I think that's very responsible of you. I like your take on it, and I fully agree. I fully agree. I mean, Gareth, we're going to have to get through whatever comes, you know, right? If this thing wants to be cowardly.
Survive.
Sure.
Reset. It's a time to, but here's another thing. You're on the road all the time. I'm on the road all the time. You know, you know, you've got a beautiful family. I've known your family for a long time. You know, I knew your wife even before you had kids. I knew your mother a long time ago. I knew your mother even before she nearly killed Yushin Okami. So, you know, it's, you know, the thing is, what we have to do, I think, is just reset and try to enjoy this time as much as possible. Do you know what I mean? You say you're bored, but you're not bored of seeing your family, though, are you?
Of course not.
You know?
Of course not. I fully get your point. I think the theme that you're getting at is to make the most of it while being responsible. And I think the message that I would like to give too, this thing doesn't overly scare me. Anything that I can do that has a result on others is something I want to be responsible for. I don't care about the COVID. That's me. I don't ask anyone to be like me, but if I could get it and then take it again to the family you brought up or to a neighbor or somebody else, then I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to do the best I can. And if that means social distancing, wash your hands, not touch your face, which seems to me like very limited information. It seems to me like very lazy and uninformed information. It seems to me that since the story of the COVID-19 has changed every single day since we've had it, but keeping distancing and washing your hands, like the very first guest that they had just happened to be the right guest. The only thing uniformly that has not changed is to keep your space and wash your hands. That sounds to me like a little bit lazy by our leaders, but if that's the best they've got, I don't have anything better.
Yeah, and then the irony of the fact that where people are crowded closely together, i.e. New York, look at the spread of it. We came through that, or I came through that airport 2 weeks ago. You know, hopefully by Sunday I don't have any symptoms, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, you can see, I mean, in London, people are still crowding together in underground trains. You've been on the tube, yeah, in London. They are still crowding together in rush hour. And I think there's a danger for those people. Look, at the risk of this being a COVID conspiracy chat, it's not. It's I want to talk to you about a lot of different things. The fight world is very important. The fight world is our lifeblood. You know, I'm still actively working as a journalist. I'm doing it all from home. I'm doing my radio shows on this thing for Talk Sport Radio. I'm sure you're doing your things, even though I've noticed you a little bit quieter on social media and broadcasting. But we're going to get busy like this. My belief is it will be 12 weeks for us like this, 11 to 12 weeks. So we might as well get used to it, because if you've got a policy, why not stick to it? Do you know what I mean? You're going to get fat. You're going to get pasty. Sorry, you're going to get fatter than you are now, and you're going to get pastier than you are now, you know? And in fact,
that, my friend, of all the guesses you and I are sitting here making, that is the wisest bet I've heard.
You're going to be 260. You're going to be definitely a proper heavyweight by the end of the next 3 months.
Sure. No disagreement.
The other thing that's happened is people are having laughter and fun during this as well. You know, Joseph Boxer Parker, the heavyweight boxer, put out a brilliant video today dancing to Jump in front of his family. Tyson Fury's using his wife as an exercise weight. Conor McGregor's pledged €1 million for testing kits. There's all Amir Khan, the British boxer, has given this 60,000 square foot facility that he built as a wedding reception place over to our National Health Service as a spare medical centre. There are lots of really brilliant things going on as well. If you were asked to go out there as a first responder, if they needed you, would you go and do it?
Of course. Of course. I don't really understand the testing kits. Look, I don't want to look down on that. I'm all for a good PR stunt as much as the next guy. But Gareth, if you want the number of people that have COVID-19 to go up by 100, go randomly. No symptoms, no anything. Go randomly test 200. You'll get your number all you want. There seems to be something very funny about this whole go get tested routine, because what ends up happening, if somebody gets tested and they're negative, so what?
Exactly.
I got to do it. Then test yourself the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
And test yourself the day after that. There seems to be a number of people who have been tested. X amount of time goes by and they go, I'm clear. I've been tested. What's that have to do with right now? You had a test from 2 weeks ago. What's it have to do with right now? And there's another part of the people who are going, I don't give a damn whether I get tested or not because I still have to deal with it. I'm going to do all of the responsible things. I'm going to follow all the mandates of my area. I'm going to do the social distancing, to wash my hands, not cough on others. I'm going to do everything responsible. What's the difference? At some point, you have to skip the cause and go right to the cure. This literally happened to me 3 days ago. I was in a hotel. My son was playing on the hotel bed, jumped off it, fell, and hurt his collarbone. I called the doctor. I said, Doc, I don't know the rule on this. Do I take my son to the emergency room over a collarbone because I don't think there's any way to cast it? Doctor said, you're exactly right. Go to the nearest health store, get him a sling, go right to the treatment. Whether it's broken or it's not broken, just treat it as though it is. 3 days later, we have had time to have an x-ray since. Turned out it wasn't broken, but I like the message in that. I've never understood this. Let's go test everyone. What if they have it? What does changes if they have it? If we're all going to follow social distancing, wash your hands and don't touch your face. And the more importantly, I would love for somebody to give me an answer to that, because this has even happened to world leaders where the media comes out and demands they get tested. They did get tested. Some of them had it, some of them didn't. What's the difference if you didn't? That you didn't have it 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden you're immune from having it today? Yeah. At some point, it doesn't matter. Skip right to the sling and forget the x-ray.
Yeah, no, at some point, well, with hindsight, we're going to look back on this and we'll say, well, we did that right and we did that wrong. But until that point, we won't know. I mean, look, I don't think it's going to wipe out the planet. It is a dangerous thing. And I take your point that you have to take your view on it, and you have to take all the views as you feel instinctively are right. If I feel in 3 months' time, well, it doesn't really matter for us. What really matters for us in terms of our working lives is that fights and events start to go on. At the moment, it looks like everything's off till around July, doesn't it? You know, it looks that way. In the last few days, I've spoken to Bob Arum and Frank Warren, the promoters here. Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder is off in the MGM on July the 18th. That means that with half of Vegas shut down, the casinos shut down, those events aren't happening. There's going to come a point, though, when the likes of Dana White, Scott Coker, One Championship, all the major fight networks in the world and all the television companies are going to say, we need to make a start on this. We've been at this for 5 months. We need to go again. And that's what's going to be fascinating right now, because there's a whole industry and many other industries, but I'm talking about ours specifically here, that is just in abeyance at the moment. And they just don't know what to do with themselves. And you know, I'm not a fighter, but we're all kinetic because we're on the move all the time. It's the first thing you said. I'm bored out of my skull. In fact, you started talking about my sofa behind me, you know, earlier on before we start recording.
Couch. I got to tell you, in the world of furniture, that thing's aces with me.
Well, it's an old silver leather sofa. I'd never seen one before, from one of the old casino hotels in Vegas. It was either from Caesars or the Sahara, where I'm sure you used to be an Elvis impersonator, you know.
You know, the Sahara predates me. I'm very well familiar with the Sahara because I used to have matchbooks from there. That's where my mom and dad used to go when they would drive into Reno. But Caesars is a nice place. I'll tell you, Caesars has a place in it. Best tomato soup I've ever had. Little $11 bowl of tomato soup. It is so good. For my mother's 70th birthday, I got her a plane ticket. We flew there for dinner. All we had was an $11 bowl of soup, and then they bring you like fresh bread. We would tear it off and dip it in that soup like it was fondue. It is so good.
Well, the next time you go and have tomato soup there, go and see the show Absinthe that's outside in a circus tent.
I will not watch the same show twice. I won't watch the same movie twice. I won't read the same book twice. I have been to Absinthe 6 times. It is my favorite show in the world. I've told them that. I stuck around and met the cast. I said, guys, I'm in show business myself. This is the best show I've ever seen.
I am in show business myself, said the Elvis impersonator from the Sahara, who loves tomato soup from Caesars and went to the after party from the Absinthe crew. I don't generally watch things twice either, but I've been twice. And for anyone listening, yeah, go on.
By the way, for anybody watching that doesn't know what we're talking about, there's a tent set up outside of Caesars that holds a show called Absinthe. Absinthe has been the #1 show in all of Las Vegas, which is the entertainment capital of the world, but it held that #1 ranking now for like 7 or 8 years. I don't think the directors and producers of that ever knew how successful it was going to be based on the fact that they put it in a little tent that's hard to get in. You got to go through that clock door and everything. I mean, the whole thing is very weird, except the show. The show is hilarious. Gareth, I had to watch that show one time. First time I saw it with my mother-in-law before she was my mother-in-law. So I came out of there with a sore neck because she was on one side and I could not look at her for 2 hours. I could not look at her direct because it was so dirty. That show is brilliantly funny.
And now let me explain. It's not dirty in the way that you're imagining about Vegas. What it is, it's vaudeville theatre. So the humor is very blue, adult, but quite some bespoke in a way. It's very cleverly done. You've got the fattest trapeze artists in the world. You've got very erotic shows with water and ropes and trapeze and all those kind of things. Amazing compares with one female compare who's obsessed with her vagina, isn't she? Obsessed. And so,
you're talking about the great Penny.
A brilliant MC. I can't remember his name. Do you know his name?
Billionaire.
Yeah, billionaire. You're on little wooden chairs. It's almost like if you think of the box set American Horror Story, I think American Horror Story, or it's just like nothing you have ever seen, and it is literally in a giant canvas tent. It's like going back 50 years. It's a raucous atmosphere. It's not too long as a show as well, and it's fucking brilliant. Fucking brilliant. And I don't often swear, but I'm glad you've seen it as well. Look,
I appreciate your passion. This conversation has gone in a direction I did not see it, but Gareth, I appreciate your passion. It is simply the best show I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's about $100. It's about $100. It's 20 minutes to get inside in the queue. I didn't get to go to the after party. Next time we're in Vegas, we've got to go together again because I would love to meet some of the artists. There's the rollerblading couple. I can't remember them all, but there's so many great bits, and you just cannot believe the next show that's coming on. And they do some really dangerous things as well, don't they? You know.
Some scoop on Fury Wilder. If that's not going to happen in July, I mean, what are you?
October, November. It's going to happen in October or November. Or it could even. I reckon it could even go ahead. Remember, this is the thing that's key about putting fights on. You can't just announce a date when people can't mix and roll and train and spar because they need sparring partners. They can't just have a fight and be in camp for 3 months and not spar anyone. They can't just be on the pads for 3 months. So my view is they'll get back to work in August. And I think the fight with Fury and Wilder will take place in November, and Anthony Joshua will fight Kubrat Pulev in around the same time, and then next year we'll get a blockbuster for the undisputed title. But let's talk about MMA as well. What's going to happen, in your view, with the matchups in the featherweight tournaments? Because everything's going to be staggered. In my view, I think they may well bring the event closer together now and say to guys, if you're fit, we're going to move the event forward because we've got. Is it 2 quarterfinals still to play out? Of course, it is, isn't it?
That started with what the Mohegan Sun was about. That's largely why it was so important that those contests happen. You know, Scott Coker took such a risk in having a competitive architecture. It's one of the reasons that Bellator stands out from everybody else. There's a competitive architecture, Garrett. There was no politics involved. He took the baddest dudes in the world, threw them in a tournament, and so whoever comes out the other side, I'm going to put a belt around. So as far as the logistics and the dates and where those things are going to play out, look, man, we're on hold and there's not a lot that you can do. I do want to go back to something that you said, though. We were talking about Fury and Wilder, and you said, look, these guys have to have time to prepare. And I will just remind you, the cream always rises to the top. And you could apply this theory of, they couldn't get ready in the gyms. I mean, there's all these excuses in the world. That's what a fighter means. Over my lifetime, the word fighter has become corrupted. It's now about aggression. It's about the punches and the kicks. The word fighter is somebody that gets up and finds a way even when it's hard. And if you wanted to tell that same story to Wei Li, who was quarantined in 4 different countries just before her fight, not only did she make weight with keeping her mouth shut, she then defended her championship, brought honor to herself, her family, and her country, and she did it all without training anywhere. So the tough ones and the real ones find a way. They realize what's good for you is good for me. If I'm stuck in a bad spot, you're stuck in a bad spot. Bring it on. Anybody can get ready. Anybody can work hard. Anybody can go out there when they feel good. A real man just steps up when he's called upon.
I agree. The other thing that's happening, though, with events being delayed is that...
Do agree. I'm not certain that you actually do agree. We just had a leader of the International Olympic Committee want to halt the games, and the reason had nothing to do with this coward virus that's going around. It had nothing to do with responsibility. The leader, who was never an athlete, came forward and said the athletes simply won't be able to train and prepare. The athletes, particularly on that level, they've got no money, they've got no sponsorships, nobody knows who they are. They're working 2 and 3 jobs, and they're finding a way to affect their craft to the highest of level. And it's something that a executive at the IOC couldn't even wrap his brain around in his cushy little life. He thinks that everything has to be great. For these athletes, nothing has ever been great. Nothing ever will be great. It's a rough life. It's one they chose, and only a wimp and a coward would stop them from doing it. And unfortunately, that's what the leadership of the IOC apparently is. Which isn't exactly
hang on a minute. Hang on.
Also add the word crook in there. They're not
hang on.
accurately describe the IOC.
Wind your redneck neck in for a minute, Chael. There you go. Look, you can't slap me from 5,000 miles away, thankfully. But the thing is this. The Olympic Games is about bringing huge attention and huge crowds together as well. And I think, I've been to 7 or 8 Paralympic and Olympic Games, down the years. And they are an extraordinarily large festival. And I do think they made the right decision by postponing it. I really do, because there's no... Again, I don't want to go back to... We are talking about the virus. That's the reason why it's happened. But the kind of petri dish that you're creating by bringing 180 countries together, the fittest and best athletes in whatever it is, 42 sports if you count the Paralympics and Olympics, it does not... You would have made the same decision. You would not have said, no, we just go ahead. Because you'd have been decapitated for doing that.
I agree with you, and I see where it's responsible. What I am speaking out to is the reason that they gave. If they would have been very mature, like you just were, and said, look, we don't know a whole lot about this, but we're getting some advice, and a lot of the advice does sound the same. The first thing that a lot of experts are saying is keep a little distance. Second thing they're saying is keep yourself cleanly. Third, try not to contaminate others and touch your hand and sneeze the right way. When you start to hear the same thing, when you start to find those commonalities from the experts, or at least the so-called experts, that's what you really got to listen to. You got to listen to what they're saying that they have in common. And I agree with you, but this isn't the statement that he put out. He put out a statement saying that they wouldn't be ready and they wouldn't be able to prepare. He's not wrong to do this. He shouldn't evoke an emotion or a redneck from me for that. But I do want to take him at his word, and I do want to discuss what it is he did say. Don't tell me that the right ones don't find a way to be the right ones. Don't tell me best don't find a way to be the best. Whatever they have to do. I just watched Wei Li train in a hotel room with nothing more than doing box jumps from the floor to the bed, coming to America, representing her 4th quarantine, defend a world championships against the greatest that weight class ever saw in Joanna, and also set a record for fight of the year. All I'm arguing for you is the tough ones and the great ones will always be the tough ones and the great ones.
No, I agree. And yeah, look, let's just, I don't want to keep you forever because I want to make this a regular thing and I don't want to overstay my welcome in the Bad Guy Inc. Well, it looks like a converted sauna, to be honest. But
by the way, before you go, can I ask you a serious question? Can I use this footage? Like, will that bother you? Can I like put this out on my channels?
Could you not have asked me afterwards about
Well, I won't like, beat you to it. I'll let you go first. But I mean, content's a little hard to come by right now. I got the great Gareth A. Davies. I felt like we covered some good stuff that possibly the world should hear. Can I use it?
I think the answer is a resounding yes.
Do I have a solid maybe?
No, you have a resounding yes.
A good solid, I'll get back to you later.
Yeah, exactly. Let's. I want to get some of your predictions on Bellator. Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
Who's going to win this featherweight tournament out of AJ McKee, Daniel Weichel, Emmanuel Sanchez, Pedro Carvalho, Patricio Pitbull, who's the current champion, and Darian Caldwell?
Popular opinion, if you're talking betting and just a majority, they will tell you AJ McKee. I think that that's a good bet, but I simply can't go against Pitbull until I see it. I did not know Pitbull is as good as he is until recently. I knew that he and his brother were special. I did not realize how special. I am going to go with Pitbull.
You fought at middleweight, at light heavyweight. Your old mate John Jones is in trouble tonight. We'll go into that another time. We'll just let that play out for now.
Finally, a little normalcy, right? The whole world's been a little off, but now we finally got a little sense of normalcy.
Exactly. Yes, in that very
real John Jones.
I know. That's called irony, isn't it? That really is irony. And you fought at heavyweight. There's 2 other matchups that I'm fascinated by that are coming up. Ryan Bader against Vadim Nemkov at light heavyweight. Does that fascinate you, that fight?
And full credit to Bader. Ryan Bader, I think, is a guy that's starting to get the recognition he deserves. And even with that said, it's not enough. Okay, for a guy to win 2 titles, generally he always lets the lower one go. I don't think we've ever seen a champ that's returned and defended. Not only is he going back to defend, he's going back to defend against a true number 1 contender who beat the same guy that Bader had to beat to win the belt in the first place. That's a hard draw, and I respect him for doing it. Yeah,
and also I got to say as well, Bader's one of those great guys, and I just love the matchup because he's at the peak of his powers. Now, as I say, you didn't ever fight. I hope I'm not wrong about this. Did you ever fight Gegard Mousasi?
No, I never.
You didn't. You didn't. That's right. Yeah, Gegard Mousasi against Douglas Lima, who I think arguably is the number 1 in the world at welterweight. I know you argue with other people. Our mate Ariel. You argue with him about Douglas Lima and stuff. For me, Douglas Lima easily inhabits the top spot. I mean, I think people would have to come and take it from him. So you're saying that Douglas Lima is the number 1 in the world at welterweight, 170?
I will just tell you this. The mere fact that he's in the argument with the George St. Pierres and the Kamaru Usmans and the Colby Covingtons of the world, I think is enough. I mean, look, it's very hard to establish who is truly the best. He's got 12 pounds of gold that it's him. Some other guys on the other side of the track. I get the whole thing, but I think you're complimenting him tremendously. Gareth, what I love about this, I was so excited when I heard about this fight from Mike Hogan because Lima brings something into every fight, and no matter how many people he knocks out, how many people he makes limp out of that cage, people still believe that he is a ground guy. They always think, oh, that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's going to punch with me just to get me to the ground. Fight after fight, month after month, year after year, win after win, people still don't understand. It's this guy's kickboxing you got to deal with. By the way, that happens to be Gegard's game. So when you match these guys up on paper, for me, this is one of the most exciting matches ever. Are you ready for that? One of the most exciting matches ever in Bellator.
I completely agree. Douglas Lima is one of those, weirdly, he makes very few mistakes. And Mousasi is exactly the same. They're both very technical. They make very few mistakes. We are going to have one of the greatest precision chess matches in MMA that we've ever seen. It will be largely stand-up. I mean, I always talk about Gegard as like a Persian magician. Obviously, that he's got this incredible skill. He transitions so brilliantly. It's almost like he's on a magic carpet at times. He goes from the ground to standing up. I mean, do you remember when he went 25 minutes with Lyoto Machida, when no one could go with Lyoto Machida? He lost the fight. He lost the fight in a very close fight ages ago. But he is a brilliant exponent. I spoke to Gegard about the Lima fight, and he said, I know exactly how he fights. I know exactly what he does. I think Gegard has more experience and a bit more in his locker, but I think Lima has momentum on his side, and I think he's at the peak of his powers. Cannot wait to see that. Hopefully, we still get all of those matchups we still see by the end of the year.
Sure. I'm with you. And I'll give you one prediction on Lima and Gegard. One prediction. This is going to be a great fight. Somebody's getting whipped. Their style doesn't match up for a long, drawn-out chess match. It just doesn't. It matches up for a head-on car crash. Somebody gets taken out of that fight. It's the kind of match that when it ends, we're going, whoa, this sure was clear. But that could be clear for Lima. It could be clear for We're not going to know it till we see it. I'm just predicting for you. This is a great fight. Mark my words, this will not be a close fight. This is like Wilder Fury in so many ways. But before the fight, you don't know who's who. When the fight's over, you go, oh my goodness, they weren't even close.
Yeah. Look, and the other thing is, when this 12 weeks of isolation, as I'm calling it, do you go down the shops still or not?
Do I? Yes, I do.
Do you go down to the bar or not?
No.
Do you go to the pharmacy?
I would if I had to, but no, to answer your question, I have not had to go to the pharmacy.
Do you go, have you got your own gym?
I work out of my garage as of late.
What's the weight you'll get to before you stop being white, pasty, and fat?
I got no limit. There's no barriers on me, Gareth. I will not limit myself. No telling how big old Chael will get.
Do you know what you weigh right now?
These arms got any bigger though? Even in the case of the pandemic, I think they're about another half inch.
I can see some chicken wing.
Ask your boy Fury. He got away with another one, huh?
You know what bingo wings are?
No.
It's when your skin under here starts to flap a little bit, yeah?
What's it called?
Bingo wings.
That's funny. Bingo wings.
But I tell you, but the trouble is though, Chael, when you did that just now, you're starting to get bingo wings, yeah?
No! Am I real? Let me do it again. Wait, give me another showing. Give me another showing. Let me flex this time.
One.
Bingo wing? That's called a tricep.
No, there's a little bit of bingo wing going on there. It's only a little bit. It's just a trace, a nuance, but there's a little bit going on. Beware, Chael Sonnen. Do you know what you weigh right now?
Of course I know what I weigh. 217, lean and mean.
Nice. That was Muhammad Ali's prime weight.
And all this other stuff, and I can't remember the whole rhyme in my head, but I'm sure it's very charismatic and funny.
Is there any chance that at the end of this, you're going to be, not this now, but at the end of this containment, you're going to be so in shape that you actually fancy another fight?
No, I've had enough. 22 years, never finished less than second. 22 years, never got less than a silver medal. Isn't that remarkable?
It is, but
classes, 11 world champions, beat 8 of them, and went 4 rounds with Georges St-Pierre in a basement in LA one time. I fought them all.
I know, and you continue to fight them all. Look, you're brilliant. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining me on this.
Do I really have bingo wings?
Oh, don't do that. It's you
know this is going to make me very self-conscious. I want you to look again. Do I really have them?
Just a little bit, yeah.
It could be the shirt. The shirt's loose on me, Gareth. You're not giving consideration. The camera adds 5 pounds, and black isn't flattered on anybody. That's not a bingo wing. I think I think you're wearing black. Oh, he's gone. Okay.